Each year, the Des Moines Public School District is required by state law to propose a balanced budget using sound budgeting principles. We'll talk to Chief Financial Officer Thomas Harper, along with Ed Linebach, Chair of the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee, about the district's budget process next on Classroom Connections. Hi, and welcome to Classroom Connections, a public affairs discussion on issues important to students, teachers, and parents in the Des Moines Public Schools. I'm your host, Sarah Taylor. As Iowa's largest provider of public education, with more than 32,000 students and nearly 5,000 employees, Des Moines Public Schools also has the largest budget of any school district in the state, supporting the education of our children with more than $450 million each year. Here to talk about the budget development process is Thomas Harper, Chief Financial Officer for Des Moines Public Schools, and Ed Linebach, Chair of the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So Thomas, we'll start with you. Can you tell us what the district's priorities were when developing the budget for 2014?
Number one priority, as you know, is education. Secondly, we wanted to develop a budget that was going to be sustainable. So from that standpoint, we actually put everything under what I call a lens of, okay, if we do this, we want to see what it looks like in 5 years. Because what we wanted to avoid was the yo-yo effect, a feast and famine effect. We put service in the next year we have to cut it. I am proud to say that Des Moines may be one of the few districts in the state or the nation that going into FY14 will not have, there won't be any cutback in services. We're probably going to be adding folks back to the classrooms, but they're going to be done strategically. And the Citizen Budget Committee, worked hand in hand with us in making that happen. I might want to say one other thing too. There has probably been a lot of discussion about internally and probably externally about our surplus, basically. Yeah. What I would say to that is that what this has allowed us to do is allowed us the district to have options, flexibility. And that flexibility will see us well into over the next 4 or 5 years and beyond, assuming the state does certain things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds like we're in pretty good shape.
We're in pretty good shape.
So Ed, what were the recommendations from the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee?
Well, Sarah, it was kind of unique, if you will, this year. I've had the privilege to chair this committee here, and I think this is the 3rd year. And as you're aware of, the 2 previous years, we had to deal with deficits, and this year with a surplus, for lack of a better word. It was kind of unique, and it was actually turned out to be a little bit more difficult this year, trying to make recommendations, because we weren't used to having to make recommendations using a surplus. So with this year, we went through and we have some brand new committee members this year. So we have committee members from all over the citywide that are helping us make these recommendations. And this year we went through and we figured, and these aren't in any particular order, but the initial one was a greater focus on pre-K to 3rd grade instruction. And what I mean by that was, in the past years we've had to cut back on teaching, cut back on the remedial math and the math and remediation teachers. So this year one of our recommendations was to the board that we would like to bring back any teachers that have that were in excess, pink slipped, whatever word you want to use on that, and get those back to where they were, pre-deficit times. So we wanted to get, that was the main focus, that and a reasonable class. As everybody knows, kids do better when the class size is smaller, have a better ratio of teacher to students. And then engagement during the non-school times, another issue involved in that focus on K-3. Kids seem to do better when they have full stomachs when they come to school, and they have the more they are with the teachers and learning things and not having opportunities to do other things, the chances of being a better student are a lot greater. The other areas was building the sustainable staff back into the building. That includes the teachers, the math, the reading, vocational tech, central campus, those, again, teachers that may have been, departments have been downsized in the past. One of the other issues was technology. I mean, we are looking at getting more into the 21st century, I guess, with technology. And what I mean by that is not just some of the schools now have went to a one-on-one. North High has done great strides now with going to a one-on-one, which is one laptop per each student. We felt as a committee that with the progress this has made, it would be nice to implement this basically district-wide. Problem with that being is that the infrastructure doesn't allow that. So a lot of technology upgrades need to be made on both sides of that. And then the last thing was promote how well Des Moines Public Schools is. Phil Rader does a good job of doing this, but we would like to look at getting the word better out to the community and letting them know how well our gifted and talented program is, how well our vocational tech program is working. All the different things that are doing so well in Des Moines Public Schools. We want the community to know better that this is a great point, and we would like to get it out there as much as we can.
Okay, sounds like some great priorities. So Thomas, can you tell us what the Employee Budget Advisory Committee recommended?
This is the second year for the Employee Budget Advisory Committee, and it added some new members. We restructured it a little bit, but they focused on two things in the health area, basically, in the wellness area. That was one of their prime recommendations. The other one, by the way, they're going to be giving their presentation Tuesday night at the board for the first time. So this is new to them. And that other area they focused on was we need to get better at being internally in terms of efficiencies and effectiveness. You know, and they pointed out a couple of areas where that could be done. And oddly enough, they also talked a lot about technology. So there seems to be a common theme here. Yeah. Okay, about technology. I'd like to piggyback on something that Ed said, and especially talking about our brand in the community. One of the things, I think that goes both ways. I also think we need to do a better job of communicating internally with our employees, because I think when we found out in a lot of the community, committee meetings, basically, that the information that the public had mostly came from our employees. So that tells me that we need to do a better job with our staff. They're the source for it. So,
okay.
That's it.
All right. So the legislature has been focusing a lot on education this session. Mm-hmm. What do you hope that they'll accomplish, Ed?
It's always a tough call with the legislature. I mean, as if you read the publications around and everything else, it's hard to get a handle on this. But the main thing is that with Governor Branstad's education reform, it seems like other programs, such as the funding, is kind of held hostage on this. And I think that is one of the biggest issues, is that if there's a way to combine these and get them done at the same time. The biggest thing is having a funding where it's done for a couple of years, and so we know where we're at going in, instead of getting down to the last minute and having to put these things together, and at the same time getting this reform done so we know exactly where we're at, and if there's a way to get both these done, it would be a benefit to both sides.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so where can folks find out more about the district's budget?
As always, they can go to our website, and they can also call my office.
Okay.
And we'll be glad to talk to them about anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Don't forget, this and all other Classroom Connections episodes are available on our website. For Classroom Connections, I'm Sarah Taylor. Thanks for watching.